Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for January 11th, 2017. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. What we see here is a nice trading range that has developed overall. We're sitting near highs, but we have a very narrow range over the last 4 to 5 sessions, which implies that energy is clearly building up in this zone, and we could see expansion one way or another very, very soon. Our primary idea to start the week was to watch 2273. That's the December high, because any pushes into that zone or above it could be seen as a rejection area for bears looking to push price back toward 2214. So that was our primary idea for the week, was to watch prices here into 2273 for a shot at pushing this thing back toward 2220 and 2214. But again, the key level to watch here is going to be that 22.57 half. Right now, bulls have been defending that zone for several days now for a shot at squeezing into the next upside key level, which will be 22.95.75 to 2300. That's the next upside zone. But any failure to hold this 22.57 will likely run the stops downward into 22.14. So right now, 22.57 half is going to be a very important pivot to watch. And so far, bears have had the upper hand from 73s. So right now, we'll have to see if 57 half can continue to hold or if it gives way. Here's a look at the intraday time frame. Again, the previous session, what we were looking for in the trading room was for any signs of movement into 73 to be seen as a selling opportunity by bears. We talked about 71s being the upper end of the zone as well. Price got into that area, pushed above it, made a support, and tried to push through 73s. Did not quite get there. Dropped back down. And you can see in this view, VWAP was trending up at the time. The third standard deviation of VWAP went vertical, and price went into price discovery phase outside the third standard deviation. When it failed to maintain its stance outside third standard deviation, that's when price rotated back to value. So 73 is very, very important, but again, 57 half is going to be what opens the door to much, much more weakness ahead if 57 half gives way. Lots of buyers have been defending here, so the sell stops are lining up below that zone. So keep an eye on 73s for continued defense by the bears, and watch 57s for a potential run of the stops. Here's crude oil. Crude oil has been in a significant downtrending market here over the last couple of days. We've seen this thing drop from 54s all the way down below 50s, 52s now. And so if we look at this in a higher time frame here, let's not delete anything. Let's load PivotBoss pivots. There we are. And what you see right here is after price got into the 54s, 55s, right, there was a major rejection to start the year. This is something we talked about to begin the year. Prices above the previous year's high and month's high was rejected. And then price dropped down, came back to the previous month's close and year's close, and was rejected. We talked about the stops potentially coming out below these lows and how it'd be a stop run day, and you see it played out. We talked about any pullback being perhaps a selling opportunity, and you could see that perhaps that was the case here. We just continued downward. The big level that I've been talking about is 51.67 as an area that bulls need to defend, and prices have held above that zone for quite some time. But if these are the stops coming out, the only logical part here is to return back to value, and that's 46.69. And so given the way that this thing is played out, given how price has pushed through 67s here, 51.67s, any pullback, any rotation back into 51.67 or 52, if that fails to hold for any significant amount of time, you could see a big time correction back toward 46.69. So right now, the major pivot remains 51.67. Can price close back above that zone, or are we going to remain below it? Because any failure to get back above it will spark another wave of weakness back toward value. All right, let's take a look at the intraday time frame. If you hadn't had a chance yet, I posted a premium replay video yesterday afternoon about our call in crude oil. We were looking at significant absorption here. Once the stops came out, we were looking to sell 51.80 for a move into 51.25. The next pullback, we were looking for a continuation into 50.85. Both of those came out very, very nice, and you see the completion of the move. Now we've gotten another big trend day down, 2 days in a row, and we could see a little bit more back and forth action here, especially in the morning because we have crude oil inventories later on this morning. So we could see a fade the edges type of morning until this thing plays out a little bit. But given the recent 2-day decline, it wouldn't be out of the question to see a digestion day today. So it'd be a fade new highs, fade new lows type of day with a downward bias. All right, let's take a look at gold. Here's a look at gold futures right now. This one has been in a steady uptrend on a swing basis here. It hasn't been a runaway market. It's been a slow and steady push higher. And we've seen this thing kind of continue to play out. Let's delete this here. This is the most important level, and that was 1145s, 1146 half. We formed a little box there, and you saw the stops come out, and it got a nice little rally. When it came back, it held that area and then lifted off into the previous high, and that's 1190. So we've been talking about this trade and this setup for some time. We talked about it, but we were very cautious about it, but we also knew which levels to watch and which targets would likely be next. We reached our 1180. We've now gotten 1190, and the next zone above would be 1197.90 to 1200. We've had a steady uptrending market for the most part, higher highs and higher lows most day over day. Right now, the major pivot here is 1170 and 1180. So any return into 1180 could be a buying opportunity up. Otherwise, 1170 could provide that lift. Failure to hold 1170 could really drop this thing a little bit more. But right now, on the uptrend, fairly quiet. You got to be able to defend rotations right now to the downside for a shot at seeing a little bit more strength. But right now, any failure to hold 1180 could be short-term bearish here into 1170 and perhaps even lower. Lastly, let's take a look at the NQ. One thing that I've been talking about with the NQ was watching the previous month's high, watching to see how price was going to behave above that zone. Just because price is holding above it doesn't necessarily mean that we run off, right? Because these participants, any late longs that have gotten in over the last 2, now 3 days, if they don't continue to get paid or if they don't get paid, the stops will come out. So right now, got to be patient here. The idea is still that the trend is up. There's higher lows, higher highs day over day, so you got to be able to defend pullbacks and know the direction of the trend. It's not yet time to sell the NQ just yet, but that time could come. At the moment, we're still watching this thing to line up a potential reversal opportunity, but until that time occurs, you got to be directionally with the trend right now. The market's trending up, and so on an intraday basis, the idea would be to buy pullbacks ahead of a potential squeeze. So on an intraday basis here we are. One thing with the NQ here is we've been trending up quietly. You know, we get stuck in some of these quiet markets and then we rally. Then we get stuck in a quiet market and we lift. Now we're in another quiet market. So you have to be very careful here. This thing can chop you to death right now, but it's trending up for the most part. So we could see further chop sideways to begin the day, and by the end of the day, we could be quietly higher. If there's any failure to hold basically above these recent lows, 25s, that could easily rotate price back toward the bottom of value, and that'll retest prices near 5,000. So that'll be a big time retest. Overall, as I mentioned before, 49.94 half is the previous month's high. That's the big level. And given the uptrend here, if this thing were to be tested, 49.94 half, first test I would anticipate bulls to defend. If there's any failure to hold that level, watch out because the stops come out. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how these play out the rest of the day. Good luck and trade well.